Hey, what's up guys? Spencer Teddick here. There's been a lot going on in spaceflight this week, so we're just gonna jump in and give you a little bit of an update on what's been going on. Here we go. So to start off, we're gonna start with SpaceX's BN1. They just got it fully stacked down in Boca Chica. It's in the high bay right now, and they ended up using a crane coming through the top of the high bay to get that stacked because it is such a big booster and the biggest one anybody has really seen. And so that is fully stacked. So one thing Elon did say about BN1 is that it will not be flying. They're gonna save that for BN2. So BN1 is primarily gonna be for testing, but as well as it was a good way to kind of learn about production and just assembling that booster and what the process for that looks like. I'm excited to see them get it out on the pad and see how it does for these different tests. So right now, SN11 is out on the pad, and so this is the next thing I'm gonna talk about is SN11 just did their static fire. That was earlier this morning. Today is a Monday, the 22nd. And so, yeah, they did a static fire and it looked like it went great. There is a TFR, temporary flight restriction, in place, if you didn't know what that was. There's one tomorrow and the next day. That's as of right now. That could change, and don't quote me on any of that. So there could be a launch as early as tomorrow of SN11. So hopefully that goes well, and we'll see what kind of updates and changes they've made with that as far as when it comes down to land and with the thrust, and hopefully it lands softly and they're able to do a perfect soft landing. And so that brings me to kind of my next point is that the next thing to roll out to the pad doesn't look like it will be a Starship. It looks like it's gonna be BN1. Well, after they finish with SN11 or whatever happens with that, that launch, they will, SN15 is not finished and it looks like it may be a ways off. So it may be the largest gap that we've seen between Starships being out on the pad. Now that leaves one question up in my head is what happens if they do land SN11 and it is in a reusable state? Are they going to reuse that rocket? I would think that makes the most sense to reuse it until it doesn't work anymore or it blows up or something happens with it. So that could be where they go next. They've got two pads out there. If they put BN1 on one of the pads and then they get SN11 back up on a pad and launch it again. So I'd be curious to see how quickly, if SN11 does land and it's successful, how quickly they can get it back up on a pad for relaunch. And again, that's the end goal for these rockets, is to land them and reuse them repeatedly and rapidly. And so that's what's gonna get us to the moon. That's what's gonna get us to Mars one day, is this rapid reusal of these rockets. It is saving us time and money, and those are both extremely important things when it comes to space flight. So moving on to the next thing, another big thing that we saw was NASA's SLS. There is another big rocket being built by NASA. It's called SLS, and so they just did what is essentially a static fire or a hot fire test green run. They just did one of those. It's been a day or so now, and it looked to go really, really well. Those do run longer than your static fire with a Starship. Starship is pretty quick and short. With the SLS, they run it for a good while. So right now they're just looking through the data and the results of how that test went. And then we'll see, we'll hear back. It's really good that they are developing not just Starship. We've got two big rockets being developed, and it's good to have multiple rockets being developed, because if anything ever, so let's say down the road when both of these rockets are launching things into orbit and further, if anything ever does go wrong with one or the other, they are able to, there's always a rocket, especially here in the US, there's always a rocket to go to launch larger payloads into space. So if anything ever does go wrong, typically if something goes wrong with a rocket, they put it on hold and there's no launches for a while until they identify the issue and they fix it and do some testing as well. So that could take months if anything ever goes wrong with either of the rockets, so down the road. So another thing, Russia just launched another Soyuz rocket loaded with satellites. This was a ride sharing payload that they had, and it was commercial, so they loaded it. They were paid to load these satellites onto the rocket and launch them into orbit. There's a lot going on in spaceflight. There's like every single day there's something new happening, whether it's a static fire, a new rocket rolling out to a pad, something's always going on. It's really cool to see how much progress is happening every single day, every single week. Things in spaceflight are just happening so rapidly. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, as far as how often rockets are being tested and launched and satellites being put into orbit. It's just a very different world, and I'm excited to see how things are gonna progress from here. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. I just wanted to give you a quick little update on what's going on and what my thoughts are on all the things in spaceflight happening right now. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that little update, and thank you guys for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, just hit the like button if you like this video. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.